They tell an old folk tale about a man who got rich starting with a single straw, to take what no one valued and turn it into something incredibly valuable. This is a story very similar to that one about a man who was discarded as useless but eventually gained everything the world could offer him. The story opens with Takaya running, saving his life. Heavy gasps burst from his chest, and demonic wolf-like creatures are closing in around him. He is in full panic, rushing through an alien forest without weapons and without any plan. It is clear he is not a fighter, and he loudly cries for help, sure that he will be torn to pieces. Just as the beasts were about to pounce, a sudden flash of light burst forth and they instantly evaporated. His rescuers arrive, classmates led by the class president, but there is no relief in their eyes, only contempt. The president looks at Takaya condescendingly and asks if he is okay, the tone dripping with disdain, then mocks. I thought you could at least hunt kobolds, didn't know you were so weak. Takaya can only apologize, admitting that the monsters scare him. The president just shook his head, said, "You really are useless," turning his back. "Hurry up, let's go back." Returning to their temporary camp, they carry the hunting spoils. Other students cheer joyfully in honor of the president, celebrating that they survived, while for Takaya the humiliation continues. He pushes his way to a huge boar carcass to process the meat. "This is the only thing you're good for," one of them mocks, "so don't be lazy." Later the president gathers everyone and announces, a month has passed since their bus crashed and threw them into this hostile area. They are no longer in Japan, they are not even on Earth. They have been completely transported to another world. Their only hope is that special abilities have awakened in most of them. Some gained incredible strength, others the ability to use magic to heal or attack. In this new reality, where survival is above all, a person's value is measured by their strength. And it is then that the president's speech suddenly becomes grim. He points directly at Takaya Nagami, he is the only one, and tells the crowd that he never acquired any skills, portraying Takaya as a freeloader and a burden on their precious resources. In a crooked display of politeness, he announces a modern and democratic vote to decide whether to expel Nagami from their group. The result is immediate and stunning. Hands rise swiftly, voices shout for his expulsion. The president smiles. By an overwhelming majority, you are expelled. But his torment was not over yet. Just as he was gathering his meager belongings, a few hooligans from the class grabbed him. They tell him that a ban is not a reason to just abandon his duties. They drag him back to the stinking corpse of the monster and force him to continue this disgusting gutting, mocking that he has no useful skills. Takaya does not do carpentry. This is all he has ever been good at. Boring, disgusting small jobs that no one else wants to do. When he was working with the knife, the blade hit something hard. He pulled out from inside the beast a shimmering crystalline object. The president stood up surprised and asked, "What is this in the name of God?" Takaya, recognizing him from the trip to the village, says that this is a magic stone. He hadn't even managed to recover when one of the hooligans snatched it from his hands and shouted, "Give it to me," and the president intervened not to help Takaya, but to order the hooligan to stop. "Don't torment him too much," said coolly. "He is no longer our classmate." The president approaches Takaya with a smile sweet to the point of nausea. As a merciful leader, he gives a small farewell gift, knives for disassembly and a few coins, then says, "Get out of here." Takaya fell to his knees and begged, but the president was merciless. He said that Takaya's exile would unite the class through shared sacrifice and make them stronger, and this twisted, selfish logic left Takaya completely broken. He was expelled with nothing, only a small pouch hidden in the clothes on his back. He walks away from the only people he knew in this world, and others watch him leave, some with pity, some with contempt. Tears run down his face, and he hears a quiet voice calling his name. It is Mizukami-san, one of the few classmates who had ever been kind to him. She secretly took the magic stone from the bully and returns it to him, saying, "This is your thing, you can earn a little on it." She tries to instill hope in him, saying that as soon as everything calms down, he will be able to return. Takaya forces a smile, but inside he knows the truth. There is no way back. Not everyone is as kind as she is. Alone again, he clenches the stone, the last memory of his past, and the only thing that has not changed between worlds. He belongs nowhere. Deciding that he probably does not have long to live, he trudged to a neighboring town to spend his last money. The world is strange, full of half-humans and languages he does not understand. He decides to try alcohol for the first time, remembering how former classmates called him a virgin. He is immediately surrounded by a group of lamia prostitutes, but this encounter only frightens him, and he ran away. Eventually, he found himself on the outskirts of the city, completely alone, and finally burst into tears. He took a sip from the purchased bottle, but instantly spat out its contents with disgust. Staring at the folding knife, his mind fills with one thought: I want to die. The cruel words of his classmates echo in his head: just disappear, you're disgusting, you will always be alone. But when he opens his eyes, he is not dead. A beautiful blonde girl is leaning over him and looking at him. A group of adventurers surrounded him and laughed not cruelly, but with a strange, somewhat embarrassed, cheerful surprise. You tried to kill yourself with a folding knife. One of them giggled, "Don't worry. This knife won't kill anyone," and Takaya just froze. He couldn't even properly end his life. Seeing him consumed by despair, the group decided to pity him. "Let's get out of this stinking place," said their leader. "We'll be with you until morning." The group introduced themselves: Roar Archer, Dyke Knight and Captain, Meryl Priestess. Takaya quietly said his name in response. Walking through the desert landscape, Mariel asks him what kind of work he did for his old party. He explains that he just substituted with small tasks, processing the loot that friends brought. Mariel's eyes widen. "You mean crafting?" she asks. For Takaya it was just a task, but she tells him that crafting is one of the most respected professions. Roar explains in detail and enthusiastically that fabricators are those who turn monster corpses, plants, and minerals into valuable materials. His gaze falls on the magic stone in Takaya's hands. He freezes. "Don't play dumb," he says in a serious voice. "This is a 4th-level magic stone. A novice adventurer shouldn't even be able to hold something like this." Takaya confusedly explains that he got it from the heart of a wild boar. The whole team was stunned. The magic stone is crystallized blood in the heart of a demonic beast, and to extract it without letting it dissolve requires incredible processing skills, at least 3rd-level ability. For a novice like Takaya to extract a rare, high-quality red magic stone is simply unheard of. They realize that he is not worthless at all. This boy, who doesn't even suspect his abilities, has amazing potential. Maybe, Dake thinks, you might even be able to handle a dragon. Since Takaya was never truly appreciated, they offer to take him to their guild to have his abilities measured there. Mariel says that their guild is full of talented people like him, and they will help him unlock his true potential. Suddenly a spark of hope flashed in Takaya's eyes, and the voice of classmates echoed in his head. "You're worthless. You're not taken into the party." He looks at these kind strangers and with his last hope begs, "I want to see what I am capable of. If this talent is real, please take me into your guild." When his tears turn into hope, they welcome him with open arms. "Exactly," says Roar, throwing his arm over his shoulder. "Now you are one of us." They lead him into a huge, bustling port city, one he has never seen in his life. Takaya froze silently. The world turned out to be much bigger than the tiny, cruel community he had been locked in before. For the first time he feels freedom, and finally understands how foolish he was to allow himself to be enslaved by his so-called class. They arrive at their guild hall, Sea Rat. The company introduces him to the receptionists, who direct them to the guildmaster's office. They burst in, announcing their return. But they found their boss, the great Rudra, who was being trampled by a woman in a pig mask. What a strange and funny greeting it was. When the session ended, Roar handed the red magic stone to Rudra, and the guildmaster, intrigued that such a green boy managed to obtain such a rare item, agreed to test his abilities. They obtain a special artifact tree paper, which reveals a person's hidden talents. Takaya places his hand on it, his heart wildly pounding with hope and fear, and he is still convinced that he has nothing to offer. But as soon as his fingers touched the parchment, suddenly it explodes with dazzling light. Everyone holds their breath. On the paper, not just a branch or a few leaves, but a colossal, sprawling root system that seems to encompass everything. The guildmaster froze in shock. Takaya, with a trembling voice, he whispered, "You have a root. You will be able to master them all kinds of production and processing systems of this world." The boy, who was expelled because he was considered useless, turned out to have an incredible talent for crafting. He can master everything. Nothing could overshadow this genuine, warm smile. Takaya passed. The guildmaster beams, exclaiming that their guild is lucky to have a man with such boundless potential. For Takaya, this is the beginning of a real life. He remembers his former self, the one who lived an unhappy life because he never tried and gave up, never even starting. But now he has a goal. He clenches his fist decisively. "I have decided that I will live in this world as a fabricator." The whole guild throws a wild party to celebrate the arrival of their new member. For the first time, Takaya feels that he is finally in his place. Around him are people happy to have him nearby and see what he is worth. He is no longer a laughingstock. He is the center of attention, the future star of the guild. He drinks, laughs, and has fun all night with new friends. The next morning, he wakes up on the balcony. The sun is rising over the city. He sits down, a calm smile on his face. He thinks he has never had so much fun with friends before. But his quiet moment is interrupted by a pair of elegant heels stepping into his field of vision. "Looks like you're not sleeping," says a seductive voice. He raises his eyes. Before him stands a stunning, authoritative woman he has never seen before, and she says that Rudra told her everything about him. Before he can ask who she is, she lifts her leg and with one sharp kick sends him flying off the balcony. He falls rapidly to the ground, screaming in terror. As he falls, her voice echoes in his ears like a ricochet. You were born with a unique talent, but that doesn't give you even a minute of free time. If you want to become a fabricator in our guild, Takaya Nagami, from today you are my apprentice. Just as Takaya tries to comprehend his new reality, a stunning woman with an aura of immense power appears before him and introduces herself as Lady Ever. But before he can react, the guild master Mario throws himself into her embrace, thrilled that the sage has noticed such promising talent in Takaya. It seems Lady Ever is an incredibly high-level witch, one of the most powerful people in the world, and she has personally taken an interest in our guy. The guild master says that Lady Ever, an old friend of Rudra, cannot stand to see talent wasted and has offered to teach him personally. Takaya is shocked. He thought he would finally start a new quiet life alone, together with his friends from training at the brothel. But his friends see through it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. They remind him that Lady Ever is in the same position as he is. She also had to flee from the past, and they beg him not to abandon his potential as they did, while Rudra, with tears in his eyes, asks him not to repeat their mistakes and to seize this opportunity. Their faith in him is incredible. It strengthens Takaya, and he vows to become strong enough to stand on his own 2 feet and someday repay each of them with a final sincere, I'm going. He agrees to become an apprentice. He and Lady Ever seem to have teleported, rushing headlong toward his new life. They barely had time to blink before they found themselves in front of a huge Gothic mansion, looming in the moonlight. This is the sage's forest, his new home and training place. Lady Ever greets him with a smile and says there is no turning back despite her formidable appearance. Takaya burns with determination and is ready to take on any challenge she throws at him. He even gets his own room, true luxury he could only dream of before. Inside, everything is incredibly beautiful and much grander than he ever expected. He chooses a room that looks cozy, but as soon as he opens the door, he is met by a horde of zombies. The place is already occupied. In panic, he slammed the door and rushed to the last free room. As he reached for the handle, Lady Ever casually mentioned that her other pupil was a girl, so he better not try anything. But it is already too late. He sharply opens the door and sees the girl who is just changing. His mind is blank, and all he manages to hear is the scream pervert and a fist hitting his face. Confused and with a fresh bruise under his eye, Takaya meets her new roommate. Here is Tubuki Baru, a reserved swordswoman from a distant land. She makes it clear without a doubt, if he continues to behave this way, she will personally put an end to him. She glanced coldly and explained that her room was the only one in the entire estate that was neither cursed nor haunted, so he had no choice left. Lady Ever tries to settle everything, but Tsubuki Baru is against Ith, even refuses to shake his hand, and she does not trust such a weak man as him at all. Broken Takaya asks where he can sleep if all the rooms are occupied, and Lady Ever smiles and says there is enough space in her room, but he is immediately sent to training to clean the entire estate. And so his exhausting training begins. But this was not at all what he had hoped for, an endless cycle of cleaning, shopping, washing, and cooking. Days merge into weeks end in them, only household chores. A whole month passes, and Takaya begins to worry. He has not received any real training, only numerous exercises in resisting other temptations. Just as his hope began to fade, Lady Ever finally calls him and Tubuki Bara and announces them ready for the next level. The time has come for their first real training, a survival test in the forest. His backpack is packed with food and medicine, and he is finally buzzing with excitement before the real challenge. Lady Ever decisively states 2 main goals. First, Ryua must obtain a high-level double elixir, and second, create a new high-level knife for herself. Kaya is in panic, has no clue about blacksmithing, so Tuba Kibaru comes to help. She is from a family of famous blacksmiths, and her part of the trial is to teach him. She is not thrilled at Al immediately threatens to kill him if he detains her. They set out into the desert, distorted landscape surrounding the estate. Not even 5 minutes had passed when Takaya was almost eaten by a terrible plant monster, completely helpless. He screamed, begging for rescue, until Tuba Kibaru easily cut the creature in half and saved him, then looked at him with complete contempt, thinking what a useless man she had to get involved with. She asks if he has any special talents, and he sincerely admits that the last month he has practically spent all his time filling his head with knowledge about herbs and crafting. He names the key ingredient of the antidote lentil moss, which can also be used for paralysis and as a sleeping poison. When the sun begins to set, Tuba Kibaru decides to set up camp. Later that night, a carrier pigeon arrived with a letter for Tsubaki Baru, and while she was busy, Takaya used the supplies they brought to prepare surprisingly tasty food she initially refused, but the smell was too tempting. She takes a bite and is amazed, not believing how delicious it is. Takaya is simply happy to finally be useful, but his loud excitement gets a sharp quieter from the reserved swordswoman. Suddenly, the pot of stew explodes in a flash of flame. From the darkness, a pair of shining eyes is watching them intently. A huge many-eyed creature crashed into their camp, and Tuba Kibaru instantly pushed Takaya back, shouting, "Run to the mansion." She draws her sword and lunges into a fierce fight with the monster. The beast is incredibly powerful, with one sweep it through her far back. When she lands, Takaya notices. Horns are growing from her head. Tsubaki Baru is not entirely human. She is a completely different being, standing beyond the bounds of humanity, and she unleashes all her power on the beast. But the monster drove her to the ground and pinned her down, and she yells at Takaya for not running away. But just as it was about to deliver the final blow, another creature crashes into it, a huge white wolf, saving Tsubaki Baru. The wolf suffers a severe wound and falls, transforming into a young girl with a fever. Takaya immediately recognizes the symptoms from his training. It is a rare poison called glenbany, and he knows there must be an antidote. But Tsubukibaru stops him. She insists that it is the law of nature. She was once rejected for weakness, so she believes it is not worth interfering. Her words hit Takaya like a real blow, and in his mind flashed all those who gave him a second chance: Rudra, Dake, and others from Shuret, and now Lady Ivor and Tsubukibaru herself. He cannot just stand aside, so he shouts that he wants to give this girl the same second chance he received, and tells Tsubukibaru to do whatever she wants. He will help. He comes across the girl. She sits alone by the fire and trembles. He knows what it is like to be completely alone. Gaining new determination, he tells Tsubukibaru that they need to find ingredients for the medicine. He introduces himself to the wolf girl named Akin, and Tsubukibaru, seeing his determination, reluctantly agrees to help. Thanks to his knowledge, Takaya quickly gathers lentil moss and other herbs and brews a double strength elixir with an additional cleansing effect. The first challenge unexpectedly ended. But there is one problem: Akin is unconscious and cannot swallow the medicine. When Tsubukibaru sees the big wolf, she has only one thought in her head, and Takaya has a more direct plan. Ignoring two protests from Baikibar, he declared it a medical procedure and gave the potion mouth to mouth. The next morning he wakes up, and Akin snuggles up to him and calls him master. Tsubukibaru is completely confused. Akin says that he saved her now. She no longer feels lonely. She is free, but she does not want this freedom. She wants to stay with him. Takaya, confused but kind, decides to take responsibility for her and gives her the name Mick, a name born from his creativity. With Mick on the team, they set out to look for iron ore for his knife. Suddenly Mike catches the scent Akin. Now she insists that it is not a trick but a way to repay, and rushes forward, leading them straight to the source. She leads them into the cave, and there before them unfolds an incredible spectacle, a huge shining stone of the sky. Around him is a sea of high-quality iron ore. Thanks to Miku, the boring mission of gathering turned into a real treasure trove, and Takaya is simply delighted he can fully hone his blacksmithing skills. Having gathered the materials, they get to work. Tsubukibaru finally understood why their master paired her with this seemingly weak man. He had passed a test of strength she did not possess. She realizes that his strength is kindness. With her skillful guidance and the help of Mick, Takaya, he successfully forged a brilliant high-level knife. Both missions are now complete. He thanks Akin, and Shilly says he himself was quite impressed. They return to the manor as victors, and Lady Ever is already waiting for them, confessing that she had been watching their every move all along. She congratulates them on a job well done, then drops a bombshell. Takaya, for his first official mission, is nominated for admission to the Golden Guild. After a long and exhausting journey, Takaya and his companions finally return to the city of Beirut, and as they walk the bustling streets, Takaya cannot shake a feeling of familiarity. It almost reminds him of his hometown from a previous life. Just as he begins to relax, Mick stops him, saying he is not dressed for a formal meeting with the guild master, and bluntly tells him he smells and needs to change clothes, which embarrasses him greatly. Soon Takaya appears in new adventure gear, looking much more confident and capable. The girls are delighted, and he is a bit proud. Akin gestures to the sword in its sheath at his hip. Its silver gleam reminds him that this is the very sword he made for her. She asks him never to give up his cause, and he takes her words to heart. As they head to the Sea Rats Guild, it seems everyone is doing great. They are like recharged, fresh, and ready for whatever comes next. At the door, Mario-san greets them cheerfully and welcomes them back, but her first question, where is the man named Dake, makes the guild master twitch nervously. Ignoring the awkward silence, Mario jokingly teases Taku. Why did he come back with two new lovers? She wishes him happiness in his first official job and has no idea what chaos is about to begin. Inside, Takaya sees her clients for the first time, and Mickey immediately senses danger. Her instincts scream that these people are trouble. And she was not mistaken. Two figures were in cloaks from head to toe, their faces drowned in shadow, and only a pair of shining inhuman eyes were visible. Ariel explains the seriousness of the situation. These are not just clients, they are high-ranking demons from the demon world, members of a group known as Enchantress, and given that humans and demons are technically still at war, this meeting is extremely tense and dangerous, after which one of the cloaked figures spoke and asked if Takaya was the one they had put forward. A smaller figure throws off the hood. A young Biman girl with noticeable horns looks out from under it. "So you are the creator of the 9th level," she says, examining him. She introduced herself as Mumaru, and her taller companion in a cloak as Guardian Letty. Wasting no time, Mumaru immediately got down to business, bowing deeply before him and begging him to create a new magical spear for her. In her voice despair, tears rolling down her face, she confesses, if he does not forge her a new weapon, she will be killed. The flashback shows why Mumaru is a princess, and why her family guards the Trident of Darkness, a legendary weapon. In a month she will have to present it at the royal ceremony. And another noblewoman mocked her, hinting that something could happen to the spear if left unattended. In panic, Mumaru rushed to check, and her worst fears were confirmed. The tip of the legendary trident was completely broken off. Turning to the present time, Letty explains that their best craftsman quit, and now in the demon realm there is no one left who can repair such an artifact, so their only hope is to find a person with the same skill. But how did they find Takaya? Of all people, it was the city drunkard Dake, who boasted that he knew a 9th-level fabricator in the Guild of Sea Rats. Mike is furious. She understands that this whole game of life and death is built on the mumbling of a drunkard. She warns Takaya how risky it is, but ultimately leaves the choice to him. Mumaru sweetens the deal, promising him everything he could want: money, rare metals, or even herself as payment. Letty intensifies the plea, explaining that the spear is the very foundation of the future princess, and she is ready to give everything for it. Seeing their despair, Kaya realizes that this is more than just a job. Life is at stake here. He agrees. Mumaru is delighted, calling him the god of creation, but Takaya quickly interrupts her. He must confess. In reality, he is not yet a level 9 fabricator, and her face instantly falls into complete despair. "I am not a genius," Takaya explains to Kuli. "I just know how to play the cards I was dealt." He reveals his plan. He will not forge a new spear from scratch. He intends to repair the broken spear by welding it with that strange skystone that Mike found earlier. Letty asks distrustfully if a simple repair will be strong enough. But Takaya's confidence is absolute. With a grin, he says that thanks to his creative skill he could build spaceships that would take people into orbit, and repairing a spear is a trifle. He asks for the forge. The guildmaster proudly leads him to the basement. Takaya freezes. Before him is a brand new, state-of-the-art workshop built especially for him. The guildmaster explains that everyone contributed. Mike sold several dresses, Mario lent money, and even pawned a priceless family relic. "Now this is your home," he tells him. Overwhelmed with emotions, Takaya feels something he has never felt before: a feeling. With new determination, Takaya takes on the delicate work. He grabs the broken spear. Taking the beer, he examines the break and realizes this is not an ordinary fracture from time. This weapon was deliberately broken with incredible force. This changes everything, so the repair must be stronger than the original. Then he gives another strange instruction to mix molten skystone with ordinary lentil moss. Meek protests and insists that this will ruin the rare substance, but Akin fully trusts him, reluctantly throwing the moss into the crucible. Takaya explains his philosophy. A thing that seems useless, like moss, can become incredible if viewed from a different angle. Just like him, he activates his skill, imagining molecular bonds as he pours the materials together. In a flash of light, the spear becomes whole again, shining with incredible power. "Done," he announced, and ordered Mumaru to pour her magic into it. As soon as she swung the spear, a wave of energy exploded from it so powerful that a giant spirit fox appeared outside the guild. The spear works perfectly. Mumaru releases a stream of magic, tears of joy in her eyes, and she thanks Takaya for saving her life. The repair is not perfect, but quite enough to get her mother through, and Mamoru eagerly asks about the reward. Takaya is horrified, but Meek whispers that this is just business. You have to squeeze every advantage. Surprisingly, Mumaru agrees. Scared but determined, she accepts the terms to protect her family's name. Suddenly, Takaya feels a strange pressure in his head. Mike's voice echoes in his thoughts, tempting with promises of power, wealth, status, and revenge. All of this lies in his hands. She asks him, "What kind of creator will you become?" To him, after a moment of deep reflection, Takaya finally finds the answer. He does not want power for himself. He wants to help those who suffer, to save people who have lost their chance at happiness. He remembered the loneliness of his past life. He wholeheartedly declares that he wants to abolish this cruel system of survival of the strongest. And then Mike laughed. It all turned out to be just a test, a joke, to see how he would react. Sighing with relief, she releases the demons and tells them to come back later with money. Mamoru sincerely thanks Takaya and falls powerless, completely exhausted after a difficult mental and emotional ordeal. However, Letty announced that she would stay and work as Takaya's maid in lieu of their payment. Meek froze in amazement. She had no idea that the proud demon would agree. 3. Letty simply says that she sees talents and knows for sure Takaya is special. And to prove her point, she leaned in and kissed him passionately for a long time, raising the entire guild into an uproar. Just then, Merle enters, beaming with joy, finally going on an adventure with him. But came upon a chaotic scene. Her cheerful smile instantly faded. And so, Takaya's official debut as a craftsman ended not with fireworks, but with him desperately trying to explain a big misunderstanding to a very, very angry Merle. Meanwhile, in a tavern on the other side of the city, 2 adventurers are boiling with excitement over talks about the incredible new potions of the Sea Rat Guild and guessing who the brilliant master who created them is. Nearby, cloaked, sits a figure listening intently. It turns out to be Harukawa Mei, Takaya's class monitor from the old world, the shadow of his past just sneaking back into his life. In the Sea Rat Guild Hall, the air sparkles. The guild master can barely contain his joy and exclaims that the potions Takaya created are selling faster than they can restock. Thanks to the hard work of our guys, the guild, which was barely holding on, is thriving again, but not everyone is celebrating. Letty and Meryl stand aside with a shadow of concern on their faces, and Letty warns Meryl not to pressure Takaya too much, half-jokingly threatening to castrate him if her apprentice gets even one scratch. The guild master sighs and admits Takaya is completely absorbed in his work, as if he has forgotten to eat and sleep. Flashes show him tirelessly pounding, mixing, and crafting, a man seemingly obsessed with a new goal. For him, this is not just a job for the first time. He feels truly needed. At that moment, the rest of the party bursts inside, wondering what all the fuss is about. The guild master smiles slyly. An idea sparks, and this is the perfect way to get Takaya out of his workshop. He points to Merle and the others, announcing he has a new quest for them. Mario finds Takaya in his workshop, where shelves are packed full of finished potions. He looks up, a bit disheveled but happy to see her, while putting the final touches on his new creation. She gently reminds him of the promise. When he becomes independent, they will create a party together. Takaya is momentarily confused, ready to argue that he still needs to work. But he didn't even manage to say a word when the rest of the girls pounced on him, grabbing him with cheerful determination, and exclaimed that this was a personal task from the guild master himself, so he had no choice but to prepare. Soon a new group was walking through the lively streets of the port town, and one of the guys from the guild glanced aside, saying somewhat embarrassedly that Takaya suddenly found himself surrounded by a whole gang of girls. Another adventurer, Roar, got comically angry when he realized that he and his friend were forgotten to be invited, and stormed out in anger, while Takaya, caught in the middle of all this, looked completely bewildered by the unexpected attention. Just as he began to realize everything, Mario grabbed his hand and with a bright smile pulled him forward. "Let's go, Takaya," she said, and he just stood there embarrassed, watching her leave. Of course, this little walk turns out to be not as simple as it seems. Hiding a little aside, Letty and the other girls are spying on them, and Letty lifts Mariel's drawing, explaining that the talisman on Takaya's neck allows them to see everything. With a confident expression, Letty announces that as a mentor she must watch over her protege's first date. The others look less convinced, but Letty is unwavering, although her arguments are somewhat distorted. When Takaya and Meryl walk through the market, he can't shake the feeling that they are being watched. He looks around and sees the other girls poorly trying to hide, and his face twists in irritation. They find a cafe to sit and talk, but even there the companions lurk in the shadows, trying to blend in with the crowd. This whole situation is pure irritation for Takaya and blissful ignorance for Meryl. Trying not to pay attention to those following them, Takaya softens a bit and tells Mariel that he wants to see the ocean. Recalling that there was also an ocean at home, he feels a connection to this place. The two of them find a quiet spot on the roof above the port. The chaotic energy of friends recedes, granting a moment of peace. May, sensing that he is too tense, gently reminds him that she is nearby and will help if he ever has problems. Takaya suddenly changes the course of the conversation, asks her why she decided to become a priestess at all. Mario looks at the city and says that she has always admired priestesses who help the poor and wounded. Her intentions are pure, she just wants to do good, and Takaya looks at her with sincere admiration and says that she is truly amazing. And she seems to push away the praise, says that he complicates everything too much, and she simply followed the advice of good people. To show him what she means, she leads him to the lower districts of the city, a sharp contrast to the noisy bazaar. Here people barely survive, those who were unlucky to have special abilities. It is here that the cheerful mask of Meryl cracks. She admits that she feels weak, that Takaya's rescue was accidental, and that in reality she cannot help everyone who suffers. That's not true, says Akaya, his voice full of conviction. He reminds her of the day she found him after he had cut his veins and was in despair. She healed him, saved him. He tells her that every time he looks at the scars, the past appears before his eyes. He was a slave, and the former party leader forced him to do terrible things. His voice trembles, he bares his soul and tells the truth about his identity crisis. Am I a creator, or am I still a slave? I am nothing. While having sex, Mario looks at him and her heart tightens from his pain. She tries to tell him that he does not know her and that his idea of her is wrong, but suddenly Takaya's whole body tenses. He pushed her with all his might to the side, and at that very moment, right where she stood, a huge explosion of energy thundered. The force of the explosion throws them both far into the air. When the dust settles, a silhouette emerges from the smoke, a man with a cruel, familiar smile. Long time no see, Kaya Nagami, he says, his voice dripping with malice. Mario looks in horror as Kaya recognizes him, and before anyone can react, the man launches another attack. An explosion of energy hits Meryl directly and throws her against the wall, while Kaya shouts her name as the shockwave throws him back. He says her name one last time, and everything plunges into darkness. When he regains consciousness, it is dark and cold around him. He pulls himself up by the chain clinking at his neck. He recognizes this place. A wave of pure horror washes over him. He has returned to the same cave where his classmates abandoned him, surrounded by piles of treasures they left behind. Look at this, a voice sneers. It is Harukawa, his former class president, looking at him with contempt, and Takaya asks if he stole all this, but Harukawa just laughs. He launches into a bitter tirade, complaining that on Earth he was promised a guaranteed successful life wealth and a good education, but this world took everything from him. Grabbing Takaya by the hair, he growls that he will take back the success that was promised to him. Harukawa admits he has heard rumors about Takaya's incredible new talents. He no longer orders Takaya to be expelled. He orders him to return to the class and contribute his strength. Takaya clenches the talisman on his neck, trying to bluff, saying that his master sees everything and help is already on the way. But Harukawa just mocks him, leans closer and says, "Open your eyes. In this world, you have no family. Your only family is your classmates." From the shadows emerge more figures, another classmate and a gang of rough bandits, and their leader Green smiles sinisterly and reveals a plan to use Takaya to frame the sea rats and take everything from them. Harukawa adds that he heard rumors about others in the guild with rare skills and intends to make them all his slaves, starting with the very boy who shone so brightly. He leans in, twisting the knife in the wound, reminding Takaya that at school he was considered worthless, not popular, not athletic, not from a good family. But as soon as Harukawa spoke, Takaya's fear began to melt and gave way to icy determination in flashes of memory. He returned to the days in the Sea Rats, the first place where he first felt he belonged, and now he will no longer stumble. He looks Harukawa straight in the eyes. "If I am a pebble, then who is the Sea Rat?" he asks. "They were the ones who noticed my talent. You, who treat people like objects, will never understand this." Angered by his disobedience, Harukawa grabbed a nearby chain and mockingly asked, "Want to check?" Then suddenly swung it. A disgusting sound echoed in the cave as Takaya's hand was cut off at the wrist. He lifts the talisman. A sadistic smile appears on his face. "Your friends see you through this talisman, right?" he mocks while Takaya screams in pain. Takaya falls to the ground, clutching the stump of his hand. Harukawa looms over him, his face a mask of pure evil. "President Harukawa, you have fallen so low." Takaya, gasping in pain, rasps this. Bandits circle around him like vultures, and their leader grimly demands that he reveal Shurat's weak points. Arakawa offers a disgusting deal. Tell them, and he will take care of Takaya like his pet. Takaya is broken, bleeding, and alone. But even in this moment of absolute despair, his thoughts turn to one person. He remembers how Mario found him lying on the roadside. With no one and nothing, she helped him. This memory ignites him. A fire flashes in his eyes. He roars, "I will never share the Sea Rats with bandits like you. Now it's my turn to repay." The bandit leader lost his patience. Negotiations are over. "Farewell, Nagami," he shouts, raising his heavy axe for a deadly blow. But just as the blade begins to fall, it is intercepted by a blurred silhouette. Above Takaya looms a huge phantom wolf, and nearby battered but unbroken Mario. Her eyes filled with a fearful light, she looks at the bandits in Harukawa and whispers, "You have come." Leading the attack, Mike is beside her, a colossal ethereal wolf, her eyes burning with righteous fury. She points at the stunned students, her voice cutting through the noise. "Finally, I found you. It was you who kidnapped Takaya." The class president Harukawa growls in response, recognizing that his true opponents have arrived. He tries to control his frightened subordinates and shouts for them to calm down. They are just trying to scare us with some strange things, he yells, trying to pass off the huge beast as a stupid big dog. But Mike is not here to negotiate. She turns to her mighty companion and gives a simple command. Mike-chan, deal with these. I am going to save Takaya. Despite their fear, Harukawa's supporters clench their fists and encourage themselves, clinging to the thought that their numbers will bring victory. But the leadership knows better. Harukawa and his deputy whisper in panic. They cannot risk close combat with the wolf, and any Yandere magic will incinerate their classmates, so they are completely cornered. Meanwhile, on the other side of the conflict, Meryl approached the burly man guarding Takaya. A thug, surprised by her appearance, shouted to her, "Run," and boasted that he would not hold back just because she is a woman. But Meryl's gaze is cold. Her behavior has changed. She is no longer the timid priestess he remembers. If you do that, she warns in a voice pierced with ice, I can simply kill you. The man is stunned by her sudden confidence. He giggles. He finds it funny that a priest, whose job is to heal, threatens murder. But all that God gave me, Mariel replies with sad determination in her eyes, is the talent to inflict pain on people. With renewed determination, she vows to use exactly these skills to protect Takaya. Finally feeling the danger, that giant rushed forward. But his attack hits nothing. Mariel moves like a ghost, effortlessly dodging his clumsy swings and responding with a quick, powerful kick. The Gopnik jumped back, completely confused. He was sure he had hit her, but his blows simply do not touch her. He tries to grab her by the neck, but his hand only grasps air. She seems to pass right through it. He does not understand this. His analysis shows that her combat skills are at best mediocre, but he cannot even lift a finger against her. When he got tangled, she delivered a devastating kick and he flew upside down. Standing aside, Dake explains this incredible spectacle to the others and adds with a smile, "This is the secret of Meryl. She has a rare gift. She can rewind time a little forward and see moments from the future." Now helpless on the ground, the rough strongman finally realizes the real trump card of the sea rat is not some tough fighter, but this inconspicuous priestess with an incredible, almost impossible ability. When Eli was defeated, Mario looks down on him and delivers the final humiliating blow to his pride. You are only strong when dealing with someone weaker than you. In the main clash, the Great Wolf tears through Harukawa's troops, throwing bodies like dolls. A few of the bravest students manage to load and fire a huge cannon right into the monster's face. For a moment, while the explosion shakes the area, they dare to hope, did we kill it? And when the smoke clears, the wolf stands completely unharmed, its eyes burning with rage. It lets out a terrible roar and releases a wave of pure energy that destroys the remnants of their vanguard. Panic finally breaks through the ranks. The class leader shouts, "We cannot win, let's leave this place," they shout. Harukawa's ambitions are stronger than his humanity, and he coldly looks at the vanguard members, who remain the strong members of his class. "Do you really want to sacrifice our tanks?" One of the masks froze in horror, and Harukawa did not even flinch. He calmly explained his simple, cruel logic. The tanks will stand as a wall for a moment, and buy just enough time for the mages to burn the monster to ashes. He mockingly laughs at the frightened tank, saying, "You idiots only know how to flex your muscles. You are just a bunch of scoundrels." His cruel plan is now in full view of everyone. The girl who once admired him looks in disbelief. "I thought you said our class was supposed to be the strongest," she asks in a trembling voice. At that moment, Harukawa's mask cracks. He falls to his knees and sobs, "Why, I am the chosen one." Meek steps forward, her words sharp as daggers. "No one chose you. No one loves you. They just follow your skills." She stands tall like a beacon of loyalty. "We chose Takaya of our own free will and will do everything for him." The fighter meet, and the rest rush to Takaya's side. He is exhausted, his hand mangled, but he is safe. He apologizes, thinking he let them down, but they see only a hero in him. "Why did you go so far for such trash as me?" he whispered. Friends gathered around, their faces glowing with devotion. "You are our hope," they told him. "No one will take this from us." The dyke marches forward. A gentle smile plays on his face. "Give me your hand," he says. As soon as he touches Takaya's broken arm, she is enveloped in warm light. Kaya was struck with overwhelming astonishment, watching as his bones set back in place and the flesh itself stitched together again. Within seconds, the wound disappeared as if it had never been. Mickey reveals the greatest secret of the sea rat. Meryl's ability to rewind time forward is perfectly complemented by Dyke's power to rewind it backward. Dake admits that he always dreamed of being a burly knight, but instead received the gift of a healer. He and Meryl were outcasts, were despised by those lucky enough to have talent like Harukawa. But Takaya, he says, his voice trembling with emotion, "You have an incredible gift. You understand people's pain." In the circle of true friends, Takaya finally understands his place. They tell him that he does not need to carry the burdens of the whole world alone. After all, their group is exactly for Thato lend a shoulder and help each other in weaknesses. Overwhelmed by a sense of belonging he had never felt before, Takaya broke down and cried, finally at home. He stands up, the anxieties washed away, and accepts his title before Kaya Nagami, the fabricator. Later, we see that Shurat has taken in the same bandits who once hunted them. This is proof of Takaya's belief that anything and anyone can be fixed. But when they counted, they suddenly realized one of theirs, Minagawa, was missing. Another participant simply says, "That's her, I'm sure she's fine." And she is like this. In the shadow, Minagawa stands next to the enemy, with a triumphant, cruel smile on her face, saying goodbye to classmates she just betrayed. It was her plan from the very beginning. She clutches a strange, glowing artifact, and her eyes shine with malice. "Wait for me, Megami-kun," she whispers to herself. "I will steal your roots with the power of the void." From her lips escaped an icy, fearless laugh that revealed a threat far greater than they could imagine. Takaya wakes not to gentle sun rays, but to a thoroughly tangled situation. It seems his morning routine has turned into a full-fledged harem in full swing. He recoils, sweat dripping down his forehead, thinking it was just a crazy dream. But reality is much brighter. Mariel and others have gathered around his bed, and one of the girls cheerfully says that last night was wonderful, of course, a big misunderstanding. The girls are just grateful for the incredible food he cooked, but it all looks very suspicious, especially when Letty notes that he didn't sleep all night and ate 3 full portions. Takaya drowns in a sea of false accusations. Letty teases him, and he feverishly tries to justify himself, fearing what Muriel will think. He realizes that if this continues, Mario's son will definitely misunderstand, and overwhelmed with panic, he runs out of the room, still only in a towel. His escape suddenly ends. He crashes right into a small horned girl with a frightened look. This is Mumaru, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the demonic world. She pays no attention to the awkwardness and clings to him, her eyes filling with tears, desperately begging Takaya to go with her to the demon world. In a flashback, we see Mamoru in her element as a heavenly king. Several days have passed since she took on her duties, and her main task is to care for her people. Her most precious item, a magical spear, was recently repaired by Takaya, and she is incredibly grateful. In fact, she is so grateful that it begins to embarrass her. She feels that she has not properly thanked him. But her quiet thoughts are shattered by a terrible shadowy figure. It is her mother, the demon queen. The queen asks why her daughter is loafing around instead of working. She immediately gets down to business, sensing the faint light of human magic from the sacred sword seeping from Mumaru's spear, and demands an explanation. Mumaru pretends to be innocent, but knows she has been caught, and if her mother finds out she allowed a human to repair the sacred demon weapon, she will be killed. The queen's patience runs out. She fiercely slaps Mumaru, and demands that she immediately bring the human who repaired her asterisk. It is because of this asterisk that Mumaru is here and terrified. If she brings Takaya to her mother, he will be executed. Returning to the present, Ikaya listens to her story, but does not think about the danger at all in his mind. Mumaru is already client number 1. Helping her is a piece of cake. He says he will go for Mumaru's sake, and she is wildly happy, calling him a true god. Of course, the rest of the guild is not thrilled. The deputy head immediately doubts his sanity, and reproachfully says he is a constant headache because he always gets into trouble. The guildmaster agreed such a rare and valuable skill, as Takaya's cannot simply be sent into the heart of enemy territory. He respects his choice, but will not allow him to go alone. He decides a small elite team will accompany him to avoid attracting attention. So Akin will have to take on the job of receptionist, and just the thought of it clearly frightens her. But Mariel apologizes sadly. She cannot go because she must convene the council of 6 sages. She decides to send Mikkel, another powerful mage, in her place. As she explains, these 6 sages are legendary mages who formed the vanguard of humanity in the last great war against the demons. This is not just an ordinary escort, it is a matter concerning the entire world. She hands Takaya a letter sealed with immense magical energy and tells him that it will automatically send him back after a certain time. This is his emergency exit. Miek, unwilling to stay aside, declares that he will become Shilby Takaya's guardian, and the guild master, stunned by how skilled his students have become but having no other choice, agrees. The deputy head also steps forward, deciding, if no one else goes, then I will go. When the team is assembled, Mike prepares to cast her spell. She releases a swirling vortex of dark energy. "Everyone hold on tight," she shouts. In a flash of light, they were transported. They found themselves in a demonic dimension, among a desolate, jagged landscape under a dark sky, and the very air here is poisonous. Mike quickly hands Akaya a cloth, warning that this mist is toxic to humans. Takaya is not afraid. Looking at the miasma that spoils everything, his inventive mind is already buzzing with ideas. He simply loves being a creator. They arrived not quite as intended. Mike realizes that the teleportation went slightly off course. They landed on the territory of another demon general, and here they are definitely not alone. A group of demons noticed them and froze, to see someone here and especially a human wandering their lands. For a moment, Takaya and the others remain unnoticed. But the luck did not last. A goblin-like demon noticed them and shouted loudly about General Mamoru and her human companion. Instantly, the escort team sprang into action. Mikkel, Mamoru, and Takaya move forward, clearing the way. The demon attacks and calls her a little bastard, and Mick just smirks. "Too bad," she says and releases a storm of energy. "I am not a little bastard. I am what your ancestors called a nightmare." They effortlessly deal with the threat, and soon Takaya and Mumaru safely find themselves on her territory. The local demons are small and childlike, gathered around and looking enchanted at the human, but it is clear they suffer coughing and weakening from the poisonous miasma that has seeped even into their homes. The children were curious, and one teased Mumaru because she brought a man home. Mamoru explains that the miasma is a constant problem. Most demons can cleanse it, but those with weaker constitutions, especially children, cannot fully get rid of it and live in constant discomfort. Looking at the sick children, Takaya seems to have an epiphany. He realizes that his duty as one of the 4 heavenly kings is not only in battles, but in protecting these people, so he asks Mumaru for some of their potatoes. He decisively says that no one should suffer just because of how nature created them. Using his skill, he takes the clean potatoes and swiftly crafts a simple but brilliant solution, a dust mask that serves as a filter against the miasma. But this is only a temporary patch. He understands that to solve the problem for good, he needs a person who knows manufacturing and can make them in large quantities. As if from Q2, 2 maidservants appear, calling themselves Rami and Yami. They were sent by Lady Azasha, the queen. They overheard his idea, and fortunately for him, they happen to have the production skills he needs. Takaya explains his plan, and hope lights up in their eyes. It is entirely feasible. They will be able to realize it. With their help, they quickly crafted a large supply of masks that filter miasmas. A young demon girl tries his on, her eyes open wide in shock. For the first time, she can breathe without pain, even in her own home. The children are delighted, finally free from constant discomfort. One of the girls was so grateful that she kissed Takaya on the cheek. Another immediately blushed with envy and rushed to compete. The children are already under care, so the group finally sets off for the queen's castle, a huge, formidable fortress hovering in the sky. As they approach, Mumaru nervously asks the maidservants if her mother is in a good mood, and their dry answer, "Not really," does not calm her at all. Takaya tries to encourage her. "No matter how scary your mother is, I am sure she will feel your sincerity. Believe in yourself," he says. His encouraging speech is abruptly interrupted by a blurred movement from the castle entrance. The demon queen herself flies out and delivers a harsh flying kick right to her own daughter's face, tossing her up and knocking her to the ground. The queen lands and shouts fiercely, "You are late," while Takaya just freezes, stunned and silent. So much for his ability to sense sincerity. Suddenly, the reunion is interrupted. A powerful figure grabs Takaya from behind and holds him hostage, and he exclaims with relief as Mumaru bursts in through a nearby window with a spear ready, looking like a true Empress warrior. The woman holding him introduced herself with a cold, commanding manner. She is Azasha, a former succubus general, and more importantly, Mumaru's mother. Sharp blade pressed to his throat, and Azasha looks at her daughter with evil in her eyes. Takaya, despite all the danger, feels incredible relief. Mumaru is alive and well. Standing in the magnificent throne hall, Azasha begins to lecture them, asking why she, the most beautiful and powerful among her kind, would even give the title of Heavenly King to her daughter. She says it was all for the good of their people, and admits that Mamoru has much more natural talent. He was the only one who could unlock the true power of the legendary magical spear. But that respect quickly turned to rage. Azasha stomped her foot, the stone floor cracked from the force of her anger, and she scolded Mumaru for deceiving her, for breaking the sacred weapon of their tribe, and worst of all, for worshipping a mere human. Takaya tries to ease the tension, telling her she is going too far, but Azasha mockingly pushes him away and declares that he will never understand how succubi behave. She again directs her anger at Mumaru, and demands to know if she understands how serious her sins are: disobedience to her mother and desecration of a priceless artifact. But Mumaru has finally had enough. She declares that she is tired of living by her mother's script. With a fierce look, she points her broken spear at Azasha and warns her, "Hey, you vile hag, hands off Master Takaya." On Azasha's face is pure disappointment. "If you raise your hand against Takaya-sama," Mumaru continues, "you are no longer my mother." Azasha warns that without her leadership, the succubi are doomed. The tension breaks, and just at the moment when Mumaru rushes forward, ready to end this family feud once and for all, Takaya's voice cuts through the air. "Wait." He shouts. All eyes turn to him as he makes an impossible promise. I will create a new magical spear. That is exactly why I came here. As Asha bursts out laughing to her, it was an absurd idea. That spear is a priceless relic passed down in their family for thousands of years, and some human boy thinks he can just make a new one. She mockingly calls him a child, but at that very moment someone steps forward and defends him. She calmly says that this person has production and processing skills of the 9th level. Laughter chokes in Azashi's throat. She knows for sure that Letty, the servant she raised, cannot lie. Her entire behavior changes when she casts a look at Takaya, filled with new, dangerous curiosity. She sets a condition. If he really can create a new magical spear, she will forgive Mumaru's offenses. But if he fails, she will kill him with her own hands, and with the weight of the whole world on his shoulders, Takaya looks her straight in the eyes and accepts the challenge. When they were leaving the throne room, Takaya finally exhaled. He hadn't even noticed he was holding his breath. Admitting that he was very nervous, Letty praised his bluff and said that he had become much stronger to stand against Lady Azashi. The girls surrounded him and summed up. Feria admits that she had to lie for his sake to make everything sound convincing. Letty is simply glad that the guild finally pays taxes properly, and Takaya meanwhile looks at Mumaru, who still looks worried. Reading, he reassures her that they will get through this together, and asks her to show her usual smile again. Blushing, Mumaru suggests he use her castle as a base for operations. She raises her broken spirit of the sky, and with a shout, "Appear, my castle," the very earth begins to tremble. A huge, frightening castle of bones and shadows bursts from the ground, surrounded by an army of skeletons and undead servants who joyfully welcome the return of their master. Inside, the reception is simply overflowing with admiration. Her subjects call her the idol of the demon kingdom, and one overly zealous skeleton named Michael holds a poster welcoming her future Who's. Before he could utter a word, Mumaru, with one perfectly executed high kick, sends his skull flying. Although she feels embarrassed, the servants cannot help but notice how genuinely happy she looks now that Takaya is nearby. Other maids mock and urge her to escort her future husband to the room, while the confused Mumaru chases Takaya away so he can go rest. Later, the team gets to work. Letty explains, although Takaya has huge potential, his current level of alchemy does not yet allow him to craft a spear. The first step, she says, is to obtain the core material, dark matter, a crystallized form of raw magic from the demonic world. Takaya agrees, ready to take on the task in the morning. When the night quiets down, Letty and Feria cannot resist teasing Mumaru about who will sleep where. This escalates into playful shoving as they all go to sleep. In the darkest part of the night, Takaya wakes up and sees Mumaru sitting by his bed, looking at him intently. Outside the window, her castle quietly hovers in a foreign, star-studded void. He is a little scared, and when she asks what is wrong, he quickly makes up an excuse that he needs to find the bathroom. She immediately offers to escort him, but he politely and very firmly refuses. He insists he will find it himself and runs out of the room, needs a moment alone. Almost immediately he gets lost. The castle corridors are confusing and constantly change, turning into a tangled labyrinth with no clear path. He mutters to himself how stupid it is to get lost returning from the bathroom, and runs into a towering skeletal guard. He screamed in terror, thinking it was some kind of monster, until he realized it was just one of Mumaru's guards on patrol. The guard says the castle was made like a labyrinth for security. It's cool, until Takaya asks for directions, because then he has to admit something embarrassing. He also completely got lost. Takaya pondered for a moment. The old him would have panicked, but now he feels excitement and curiosity about the unknown, and it seems to him that he has finally become a bit cooler. And as soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he stumbled over his own feet and fell face first onto the cold stone floor. That's all his coolness. He gets up and is glad that no one saw his awkward slip when a calm voice comes from the shadows. "You are right. It would be terrible if the girl you like saw you." Takaya suddenly froze, holding back a nervous laugh. He was caught. He turned to the source of the voice, and froze before him was a strangely gelatinous creature with a crystal glowing in its chest. "Who are you?" he asked, his heart pounding, and the creature monotonously replied, "I am just an ordinary, nobody needs slime." As Takaya tries to come to his senses and get oriented, a voice cuts through the confusion. He turns and sees a faceless slime in human form, and something seems to click in his head. The talking slime calls himself Mumaru-san, the very one who first sent him the invitation. Before Takaya can grasp what is happening, suddenly a new voice is heard. "What are you doing here?" Slime Mumaru seems to recognize this newcomer, and disdainfully calls him a kid, then turns to Takaya and beckons him along, insisting that this crumbling ephemeral castle is like his own garden. They are led into what resembles a huge study. Endless bookshelves stretch along the walls under a thin crescent moon. Takaya feels completely out of place, and the slime calmly says he just wants some feedback. because no guest from the human world has ever entered here before. Mumaru asks for feedback on the story idea, hands Takaya a manuscript, and asks if such a story would sell in the human world. The plot is unexpectedly tragic, the story of a lonely demon king, born with incredible talent, who went blind from pride and ruled the world with terror, his servants falling one by one, and in the final battle with the heroes he died completely alone. At the last moment, he was overwhelmed by bitter regret, and then he woke up reborn as a human baby in a new world. Loomer asks for his opinion, but Takaya is still trying to comprehend the whole situation. Carefree moment is shattered by Mumuru, who notices the time. Dawn is near, and it is time to send Takaya on his way. When Takaya thanks Mumaru for the strange meeting, the entire office begins to shake violently. It is not an earthquake, but something completely different. Mamoru panics and warns him not to return to the room. Someone is looking for him. If you survive, he says, I will tell you who I am. And with the last mysterious, see you, Takaya Nagami, the slime dissolved, and he suddenly found himself falling through collapsing space. He crashes back into reality with a roar and falls right in front of the real Mamoru and Letty on the top floor of the tower. The room is complete ruins. Before he could explain where he had been, the building was shaken by a series of powerful explosions. Outside, winged demons fill the sky in a swarm and tear the tower to pieces, while Mamoru screams, realizing it is already too late for its guards. Through smoke and debris descends a formidable figure. He calls himself Reigu, the demonic general Zanma, and one of the 4 heavenly kings. Reigu instantly lunges at Mumaru, mockingly spits in her face and calls her a red monkey, accusing her of starting the heretics movement, and demands to know why she is storming his castle. Meanwhile, Letty quietly confesses to the vice president that she had to use a potion to erase Takaya's memory, but was not sure if he was still alive, and sincerely begs Mumaru to forgive her for all these troubles. But Mumaru only sighed, and said that it did not matter, this clash was bound to happen sooner or later. Riga, cutting through the tension, clearly stated his demand. This was not about territory. He came for Mumaru herself, and declared that she would become his bride, the general of the succubi. Takaya, stunned, finally realized that their secret visit was a reckless gamble that had just turned terribly against them, and Riga said that this was payment for the damage caused by Mumaru's people. At the word marriage, Mamoru froze, and a genuine horror appeared on her face. Letty immediately stepped forward and shouted that this was not an option. She knew it was a conspiracy orchestrated by the demon lord Zanma himself. Riga mocked her, saying she was a low-level demon who seemed to know too much. Seeing Mumaru's despair, Letty hugged her tightly and promised to protect her even at the cost of her own life. With a piercing roar, Letty launched her final strike, Storm Helix, but Reigo deflected this whirlwind of energy with one hand, completely unimpressed. Reigo was on another level. As if effortlessly, he burned one of her succubus guards and with an explosion of dark energy threw Letty aside, warning her never to appear again. Other demons attacked him, but their blows simply passed through his body. He only sighed. He was bored by their efforts. He smiled ironically. Their arrows were supposed to pierce his vital organs, but they had no effect. And at that moment, Mamoru realized with horror that his invulnerability must be connected to the magical sword. Riga raised his blade Bildringer and, glancing at Takaya, declared him a man stained by the demon world. Just as he is about to strike, Mamoru makes his choice. Letty, take them to my mother, she orders, standing between Rugu and Takaya. Takaya refuses to leave her behind. But she smiles sadly, calming him. She will not be killed. Rigo only wants her body. She removes one of her horns and gives it to Takaya, telling him to use it as material to forge a new spear when she marries Reigo. Letty grabs Takaya and pulls him away, and he, shouting Mamoru's name, yells at him that this situation cannot be fixed by shouting alone. Takaya is broken by his own helplessness. He lacks the talent, level, and skills to help his friends just when they need it most. But at that moment of despair, something inside him broke. He grabbed Mamoru's hand, his eyes burning with determination. I will make a magical spear for you, Mamoru, he declared. To be worthy of your gentle heart, I promise I will be by your side. Letty rushes them to safety, and behind them sounds Rigo's angry voice, cursing her for fleeing. On board their rescue ship, the succubus queen coldly explains the grim political reality. The demonic general has long been waiting for just such a chance. She tells a long, painful story of the succubi, a tribe that other races have exploited for centuries. Until she led a rebellion and founded a kingdom where demons could live freely, she taught Mamoru to carry this dream forward. Akita reveals that Rigo's power is his sword. By demonic customs, Mamoru's marriage will not be official until her succession ceremony takes place, so they have a fragile window of time, and she plans to manage to forge a new spear and deliver it to Mamoru by that moment, a weapon that can counter Rigo's sword. The secret lies in the material of its blade. dark matter, a substance from millennia ago. It is a legendary material invisible and massless, so it cannot be touched. The problem is that no one, not even demons, knows how to melt or forge it. Suddenly, when hope seems lost, a voice bursts out from Michael's skull, which Takaya is holding. He says he can help, and explains that his main body is part of the spell protecting Mumuru. Letty skeptically asks herself how an ordinary skull can help even a little. Help, but there are no other options. Takaya and the others decide to trust him. Queen addressed Takaya with a final grim warning. The fate of the entire succubus tribe now rests on his shoulders. If Mumuru becomes pregnant by Rigo, it will be the end for their people. Looking at the horn in his hands, Bikaya felt his resolve strengthen. He gave his word, and now it was time to show what he was capable of. Standing among the ruins of the demon lord's castle, the team was stuck in a dead end, and Letty turned to Michael, the former demonic general of murders, now just a talking skeleton, and asked for any clue. But Michael was as lost as they were. He knew this place, but the destruction had mixed everything up. They needed a person who senses the invisible. All eyes immediately turned to him. If there was anything here attracting spirits, he would feel it. Of course, Verg was now holding a cute, fluffy plush bunny, and Diana couldn't hold back her delight, calling his new form a cute toy, which greatly annoyed Verg. At the very moment when the plush toy's face twisted into its signature sinister grin, Diana recoiled in horror. The cute facade crumbled, and she realized that her dear Diana was possessed by a spirit. Shaking off the moment and returning to business, they asked Verg if he remembered a hidden room from his old wanderings in the castle. It was a very old part of the structure that existed before the forging of the demon's spear. Verg, a little embarrassed, admitted that he hoped his old wandering would finally come in handy, and he confidently led through the records. Leads them through the rubble to the only, surprisingly undamaged door, and recognizes it as the entrance to the old slime office. When they step inside, they are greeted not by dust and ruins, but by a flawlessly refined maid Mary, whom her master appointed to guard this very room. Letty instantly goes on the defensive, ready to use force, but Mary just smiles. She doesn't care who they are. Her orders are clear. She explains her master is exactly the one who asked her to do this. And those orders were very clear. As soon as a person named Nagumi Takaya appears, cooperate fully with him. Takaya and the others froze in surprise. It turned out this was part of the slime's plan. Mary majestically waves her hand, as if solemnly inviting them to the dungeon archive. Before them spread a huge, sprawling repository of books, a collection that contained the entire history of the underground world. Takaya froze in admiration. A library of such scale, hidden beneath the ruins, surpassed everything he could imagine. Wasting no time, he asks Mary if there are records in the archive about the tripod art of the demon's spear, especially about the hammer and forging instructions used to create it. He believes that with those tools, he can recreate the Mumaru-san's spear. Here, rummaging among chaotic shelves, he cannot shake the thought, why did Mary's master allow a potential enemy to do all this? Mary's answer is mysterious. She is just a dead soul, but remembers her master's words. It is unfair to favor one side over the other. Takaya feels that there is a much deeper game behind all this, and that this master knows the fundamental secrets of their world, but he pushes the thought aside now. His only goal is to save Mumaru. Soon they find him. The detailed description of forging the tripod arc impresses Takaya. The precise instructions evoke a strange feeling of familiarity with the process. But as soon as they finished reading further, they encountered a major obstacle. The required ingredient was the breath of a dead dragon, and Letty's face turned pale because she explained that those dragons were not just monsters, but natural disasters, mindless instruments of mass destruction that once wiped entire city-states off the face of the earth. It was because of them that the underground world first began building fortified city-states, remnants of a long-past era of chaos. As soon as the burden of this impossible task falls on their shoulders, a deafening roar shakes the very foundations of the archive. The dead dragon, as if summoned by their conversation, appears right outside, and Letty realizes there is no choice. They will have to fight. A colossal creature loomed over them, a terrifying silhouette made of bones and necrotic energy. Takaya clenches in his hand a sheet given to him by Ever, a magical teleportation device. This sheet was for emergencies, an escape route from the underground world, and it can definitely be considered a magical teleport. Plan formed instantly. Letty would distract the dragon, and Takaya would sneak up and take the pilot flame from its throat with a special bottle from Mary. The dragon spits thick, rotten mist, a poison they must not inhale. Then Diana covers them, and they rush forward. For a moment, Takaya apologizes to Verg and Diana for the danger, promising a big hug when they safely get home. The tension is suffocating. Letty knows they cannot delay any longer. They need the dragon to release its breath attack so they can take the organ. Suddenly, Takaya freezes. A sharp bite on the neck, the body goes numb. It was just a single mosquito. That's all. But then he sees them, a huge swarm of insects covering the sky around the dragon, and this is a real threat. The greatest advantage of the demon, their strength and speed, is nullified by the paralyzing poison of this curtain. The swarm has hatched, now approaching is impossible. The quest seems to have ended before the first step. But Takaya is not just a craftsman, he is a man from another world. When demons see an invincible enemy, he sees only a pest problem. He says he has a plan to exploit the blind spot of the poison by using something from the human world. He takes out his lunchbox and there is a poisonous mushroom he carried with him. This mushroom once nearly killed Mike, but since then that man has been working on an antidote, which actually gives him the key ingredients for a powerful pesticide. Plan is simple. Use the vice president's wind magic to disperse this mixture and destroy the insects while the undead dragon attacks, roaring and challenging them. Let's get to work. Michael's crown, where his main consciousness resides, shouts encouragement and urges him on. The obsessed plush rabbit jumps in the air and shouts, "Come to me, you miserable insects." He lunges at the dragon, a battle cry on his lips, and our idol witch is forever. Oh, he is ready to dedicate this fight to Mumuru-san. Takaya tosses a bottle of homemade pesticide into the air and shouts to everyone to apply it on themselves, explaining that it is for moments like these of brilliant, unconventional thinking that he serves humanity. The pesticide fog spreads, and the effect is immediate. Swarms of mosquitoes fall from the sky like rain. The path is cleared. The demons freeze in astonishment, realizing that the boy fabricator has just turned the tide of the entire battle. The path is open. The demon girls unleash true hell. Remy releases a focused beam of dark energy. Meanwhile, Yami fires a volley of enchanted arrows, swirling in the wind. Ferris summons a colossal ethereal crossbow, the Ferris Ballista, and fires a powerful arrow of pure energy. It pierced right through the dragon's skeleton. Their turn has come. Diana stands guard and vows to protect Takaya with her own life, while Letty rushes forward to deliver the final blow. She closes the distance, counting seconds, and charges straight into the roaring maw of the beast. On 3, she plunges the collection bottle deep into the dragon's throat, and at that moment, a stream of necrotic flame bursts from its jaws. The heat strikes like an explosion, a shockwave forcing Takaya and Diana to shield themselves. Takaya lets out a muffled groan from the sheer force of the blast. Krivava retreats, now clutching the glowing bottle in her armored glove. Inside, at the very heart of the dragon's breath, the pilot flame swirls, filled with gathered power. They did it. The pilot flame of the undead dragon breath has been collected. Someone exclaims with relief. Letty lands and strokes the tired Takaya's head. Well done, Takaya-sama. Next, we'll take care of the rest. They're clutching that precious item. Takaya looks toward the horizon, his resolve hardened. Mumuru-san, wait for me a little longer. When everyone returned to the workshop, Deku carefully tends to Takaya's wounded arm. The bandages painfully remind of the mission's cost, and Takaya flinches from the pain as she wraps him up. Despite the injury, his thoughts are far away. He brushes off the pain, saying it's nothing compared to what Mumaru must endure. The arm throbs, and he knows, wielding the hammer alone will be nearly impossible. But he is not alone. Seeing his struggle, the girls immediately step in. Letty and the others grab the huge blacksmith's hammer and promise to lend all their raw strength, and all that remains for Takaya is to direct the blow. Below from the side, the maidservants Remy and Yami are watching, and Yami snorted with a smirk that the blacksmith, who can't even swing his hammer, is a real joke. Remy sees it differently. These are not proud demons of old times. They will endure any shame and do everything to survive. And now only one thing matters to help Mumaru. With one determined look, they all unite and prepare to take on the impossible task. Takaya takes out a bottle in which molten white metal seems to be boiling. This is a large version of shirigane, a special forging technique taught to him by Akin. He unscrews the cork and pours the blazing liquid onto the anvil, where it explodes into a glowing forge of pure energy, their instant furnace. The team gathered around the huge hammer filled with dark energy. Each grabbed the handle. With a joint shout, they raised it high and brought it down with incredible force. The blow is colossal. Tentacles of dark matter scatter in all directions. Takaya's face is twisted in pain. The tension pushes him beyond his limits, and just as he is about to collapse, the others shout for him to rest. Their combined strength holds the hammer in place. This is no longer just his fight. In a moment, the forging is complete. On the anvil lies and cools a majestic trident spear, radiating power, radiating power. The team shouts with joy, calling it the trident of revenge against Rigu. They did it. But the celebration is cut short the moment Takaya indifferently lifts the masterpiece and throws it into a boiling puddle of dark matter as if it were trash. Everyone froze in shock, and he just smiles. The plan worked. The process is active, so now it remains to repeat again and again until his blacksmithing skill reaches its peak. He does not aim to forge one perfect weapon, but will mass-produce prototypes to level himself up. Well, while he works, the whole path flashed through his mind. how he was betrayed and abandoned by former comrades, how only Meryl saved him, harsh training under Lady Ever, learning blacksmithing from Akin, and gathering materials together with Mikai. His hand was healed by Deku, his soul was healed by Mario. He realizes that every person and every trial he went through were pieces of a puzzle. All their support shaped him into who he is now, and this strength flows into his latest creation. He raises the true final creation, a spear shining with the hopes of all who stood beside him. When Takaya is asked what he will name it, he looks at his friends and proclaims its name, Triaval. The girls admire the weapon with delight. How beautiful it is. It seems even his knack for names has improved along with his skills. Just at that moment, their triumph was interrupted. A letter arrived from the demon general Zanma. It is an invitation to the evening ritual, a thinly veiled threat that today will be the last day of the succubus princess. Their contemptuous tone enrages them, but Takaya only tightly grips his new spear, a grim smile appearing on his face. He cannot forgive them, but must admit, they chose the perfect moment and the spear is already ready. The girls shared a quiet moment, remembering their troublesome but indispensable human companion. He is reckless and shameless, but has already become the key to the future of the succubus lineage, and they have all grown attached to him. With firm determination, they stand together. It is time to set out and save Mumuru. As they were leaving, one of the maids stopped Takaya and handed him a note from her master. It contained only good luck in victory. The scene shifts to a huge, formidable coliseum where the ritual is to take place. Inside, Mamoru is chained to the wall. She looks completely broken, and above her looms a rough guard. He sternly tells her to stop being so sad. Bearing a child for Lord Rigu is a great honor that will prove her loyalty to all demons. He growls menacingly, threatening to force a smile out of her if she does not obey. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the air, calling her name. Mamoru's head jerked up sharply, eyes wide with disbelief and hope. It was Takaya. He stands by the arena entrance, and the whole crew raises their oars high. Mamoru, it's me, I brought your spear. He shouts, and a tearful smile blooms on her face. I knew you would come. Suddenly, their reunion is interrupted by the appearance of Reigu himself. He smirks boldly and says that Takaya is brave, unlike the poser people he is used to. Having used that, he turns to Mumuru, calls their previous fight a farce because she was unarmed. In a haughty gesture, he orders the 3 guards present to attack her and declares that this wedding will now become a legendary fight that all citizens will witness. He sneers mockingly and tells Mumuru not to listen to a single word. That piece of demon shit says. Takaya approaches Mumuru, who blushes and is overwhelmed with joy at seeing him. Oh, Mr. Takaya, I missed you so much, she whispers, and he leans closer with a serious look. Mumuru, forgive me for what I am about to do. It's for the plan. And right there in front of Reigu and the whole demon army, he kisses her. Everyone froze in stunned silence. The girls, the demons, Reigu himself, no one saw this. While Mumuru is still confused, Takaya whispers the details of his plan into her ear. A crowd of demons erupts in disgust. Reigu's face contorts into a mask of pure rage. He is convinced that the human world has corrupted his future bride. But Mumuru, now understanding the plan, begins to play her role. Tears stream down her face, and she dramatically exclaims, No, my beloved Takaya, don't do this. Akin steps forward, points at Reigu, and loudly throws, This time I won't lose. You are neither strong nor smart. You are a coward and a schemer. Reigu laughs, his arrogance blinding. Oh, you really think that just because your spear is fixed, we are equals? He raises 3 fingers and swears loudly, I will break your spear 3 times. But as soon as he makes his statement, Mamoru, standing behind Takaya, smiles slyly. Reigu has just fallen into their trap. What? But in a quick flashback, we see the team actively discussing strategy. The girls are excitedly amazed by Takaya's bravery and say that this is the power of love. But Takaya's face darkened. He, unfortunately, admits that Mumuru would lose to Reigu in a direct fight. He turns to the 2 people holding the key to their victory. Rami, Yami, right. The 2 maids look at him, their faces deadly serious. They know that Takaya is hinting. To win, they need something more. When the tournament fell into ruins, Takaya's face froze in his head. The persistent feeling finally came together that something had been wrong all along. He started this whole conflict, his voice quiet and even, and everything happened exactly according to Rujin's plan. He looks straight at the loyal maids, and in his voice is a sharp, unwavering accusation. Miss Rami and Miss Yami were spies connected to Reigu from the very beginning. Pieces of the puzzle begin to form one picture. Think about it, he continues, recounting suspicious events. We were ambushed in that supposedly secret place where Mrs. Reddy was handed over. A brand new spear broke too easily. And the final, indisputable proof was the manufacturing process itself. With a confident half-smile, Takaya recalls that moment of insight. He knew his skill was incredibly high, but even for him, the spear should have taken much more time. I was still leveling up, just a novice compared to who I could have become, and I felt that all this would take an eternity. And yet, he says, the spear somehow finished in an instant just when the invitation to Reigu's wedding arrived. It was not a coincidence, but a setup. While everyone was working on the spear, Dekaya revealed the traitor's method. Remy and Yami secretly directed their enormous production skills into the process, accelerating its completion. But they didn't just help, they sabotaged everything. They prepared the list so that it would break after a few hits. It explains everything to stage a dramatic and vulgar victory for Rigu. The other girls froze in amazement. Planning such a complex intrigue against their own queen seems impossible. But Takaya explains, it's not about directly deceiving the queen, their motive was much more insidious and rooted in distorted pride and despair. Returning to the arena, Rigu laughs and confirms everything. Your plan was exposed by that boring boy Takaya, mocks Mumaru. I think I despise this person a little too much. Mamoru, clutching the now stained weapon in his hands, demands to know, why did he break the fragile boundary between their worlds and ignite a new war? Rigu's smile is predatory. It's easy, he says in a voice dripping with contempt. Because our race has weakened. He launches into a tirade, painting a picture of a long-gone era, desperately longing to return to how our ancestors adhered to their natural roles, and roars, we had an army, we had technology. He describes a society built on a rigid caste system. Strong and intelligent demons ruled bravely, and succubi were doomed to domestic roles. But you abolished that system, that was the mistake. With a fanatical gleam in his eyes, he declares that he wants to bring back the great times of hell by restoring that oppressive order. Reddy can only stand aside and watch or face the mask of horror. Mamoru cannot be intimidated. Do you think someone like you can rule the country? She laughs contemptuously. All your power is just an ornament you inherited from your parents. But Rigu is out of his mind, a fanatic on a mission. I don't care what the succubus thinks of me. He roars, preparing for battle. My mission is to carve the name Rigu into history, and this will be the first step. He rushes into attack, but Mamoru sees it in advance. You are too confident. She notices two gaps. You left two opportunities for a strike, and that is your mistake. Her plan is simple, to break the spear before he manages to win. She rushes forward like a blurred whirlwind of movement. She swings her weapon with all her might. But Reigu is a monster of pure strength. He effortlessly deflects the blow and throws her back. Oh no, he mocks as the first crack appears on the weapon's shaft. Unfortunately, you have only one chance left. Meanwhile, Reddy confronts the traitors directly. Remy, Yami, tell me why you betrayed the succubi. So the two maidservants do not deny it on their faces, a mixture of resentment and pain. They say their skill is immense, not inferior even to the queen and princess, but society condemned them to be servants. No promotion, no future. Why should we bear the burden of society? She asks, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. The future queen is beautiful, but for us there is absolutely no way out. Their greatest fear is for their children. We don't want our children to be servants. They confess, they confess. If Brady listens, her face softens for a moment with a flash of understanding, but hardens again. I know it must be hard, she admits, recalling their former loyalty to the queen. The maidservants reveal Rigu's, offer a position worthy of their strength in his new order. Reddy's eyes blaze with fury, and she shouts, you have chosen the wrong path. Do you really think the country will become stronger by ending the war? Because of you, the future of all succubi will be shortened. With tears in her eyes, Reddy confesses her faith in their true leader. The one you wanted, was Princess Mamoru, she says, adding that Mamoru inherited the best from everyone, the strength of Queen Azashi, her own kindness and the potential of a servant, and has all the traits the future of succubi needs. Reddy's voice fills with unwavering pride to care for the master who carries my dream. This is my pride as a servant, and I will give my life for it. Reddy, you need to wake up. Her words seem to reach the arena. Mamoru lies on the ground, and Rigu stands over her, smiling maliciously. What a disappointment. What is she to do now? But something ignites in the princess. With a hoarse cry of defiance, she breaks to her feet and rushes into the final assault. This time she swings, and Rigu blocks the strike again. With a disgusting crack, the spear shatters into 1,000 fragments. Rigu stands victorious over the disarmed princess, and, drunk on his own ideology, lectures that a succubus can do nothing to surpass a demon. Just let the demons rule the world, and you silently stay in your place. But he made a fatal mistake. He broke her weapon, but did not break her spirit. Mumiru trembles, but resolute, looks him straight in the eyes. I will not surrender, she growls, her voice hoarse from strength. Our lives as succubi are not born to be restrained, and as long as I live I will fight back. The final battle for the demon throne begins. Rigu in his terrible winged form looms over Mumiru, mocks her weakness and says that when he finishes with her, she will become his puppet, a tool of the demons for Mumiru. This is the last desperate escape. But he is not a general for nothing. He meets her attack head-on, splitting the air around them at the moment their weapons clash. The blow is enormous shock waves scatter across the coliseum, but none retreat a single step. On the side Takaya's friends watch, their faces tense with anxiety. Everything, absolutely everything, depends on whether Mumaru really manages and does it exactly according to plan. And then it happened. On the third clash in the arena, a disgusting crack sounded. The legendary weapon of Regu shattered into pieces. The spectators and even his people froze in silence. Regu simply laughs and arrogantly declares himself the winner, as if all this was part of his grand plan. But his victorious speech suddenly breaks off. He looks at his hand in confusion as dark corrosive energy begins to crawl up his arm, and he has no idea what is happening. But Takaya already knew. We return to the memory. He is assembling the puzzle step by step and uncovering the secret of Regu's weapon, the Devil's Bell. Its true power lies in absorbing the miasma and strength of the opponent. That is why Regu was so confident. The more Mumaru fought, the stronger he became, gaining an almost immortal level of regeneration. It was a secret trump card, meant to conquer his own brotherhood. So Takaya came up with a brilliant plan. He entrusted Rami and Yami to embed a tiny hidden defect in the spear so that it would break exactly after 3 strikes. But that's not all. As a final sneaky move, Takaya stuffed the core of the weapon with deadly poison from the human world, the very same that almost killed Mike, and rubbed in as much as he could. There, returning to the present, Regu fights the poison pulses in his veins. He roars with rage, unable to hold the broken cursed fragments of his weapon, and throws them away. His devoted but naive people erupt in joyful cries, believing their king is still incredibly strong even without his weapon. But in Mumaru's eyes, there is coldness and focus. The real battle begins now. She does not hesitate when Regu stumbles. In an instant, she closes the distance. He swung wildly, but she easily slipped under his arm, as if trained, and punched him straight in the stomach. But the blow turns out to be brutal. Regu bends in half, roaring in pain and shock. Before the force of the blow pushes him back and he staggers, Takaya and the others can only stand and watch as their plan works flawlessly. He coughs, clutching his stomach, completely stunned by her raw strength. The crowd erupted in screams. How could King Regu lose to a succubus princess, and in a pure strength contest at that? Regu, his pride shattered, rises with a mad smile and offers a fight to the death, but Mumaru no longer falls for his game. A calm sorry, but no completely stops him. Instead of a weapon, she unexpectedly pulls out a scrap of paper. It is the plan that Takaya wrote for her. It was never just about winning the fight. Demon General Keisenma Regu, she announces to the entire demonic realm, you will be judged by the law. Rigu's face twisted in pure, genuine shock. He was completely outsmarted. Suddenly, the world around Rego warped. He is no longer in the arena. He was teleported to a luxurious hall, where he was surrounded by incredibly powerful women laughing at him. He has no idea where he ended up. He was just forcibly summoned before the royal capital 6 epochs ago. They already know everything. The apprentice Takaya revealed his entire coup, and now everyone mocks him, calling the uprising pathetic. The smell of some petty demon, one of them grimaces, spoils their air. The woman introduced as the Princess Knight steps forward ready to carry out his sentence. Even when beings he cannot understand pressed him against the wall, Rigu's arrogance does not fade. He shouts that he will kill them all. But his threats are worthless. The sage calmly read out his crimes: violation of the truce, disruption of cooperation, and incitement to civil war, the sentence death. Regu completely loses his mind and starts pitifully screeching that they should wash dishes and raise children, not rule over him. He cannot understand why no one listens to him, why they simply do not let him go. He yells at the wise woman and she, just completely bored, takes a sip of tea. Oh, sorry, she says, I wasn't listening. And with that, his screams fell silent forever. Returning to the arena, Mumaru stands before the silent army of demons and announces that the demon general Regu is dead. Takaya looks nervously, knowing that this is the most dangerous moment. If the crowd explodes, it's the end for all of them. But Mumaru addresses them not as a conqueror, but as a leader. She promises them that not all demons are monsters, believes in a future where they will all live as equals, and asks to cry and wait until a new leader is chosen. When the crowd disperses, it is visible how a fleet of ships sails away on the horizon, a sign that the conflict has truly ended. At the top of the stairs, Mumaru meets her mother, the former succubus princess, who proudly acknowledges that Mumaru has proven herself worthy of the 4 heavenly kings by stopping Regu's plan. With one proud and knowing look, she guarantees her daughter a new position. Of course, her friends immediately bring her back to Earth, arguing about who did what and reminding her that human help was critically important. In a quiet moment with her mother, Mumaru admits that she once hated the idea of being a princess. It annoyed and hurt her. But her time in the human world and those she met changed everything. Now she feels responsibility and declares that she will take the throne because she will not allow archaic laws to prevent her from marrying the one she loves. With steel determination, she turns to Rami and Yami and announces their punishment for betrayal execution. Her mother watches, accepting the cold inevitability of this action. Two maidservants stood silently, awaiting their fate. But Takaya intervenes. He looks at Yami and asks a simple question. You two promised to help me make masks for the children, right? Was this also a lie? Did the children mean nothing to them? Yami answered firmly, no. She, smiling sadly, says that the desire to create something that could save lives was born in her heart. If they had met him earlier, she thinks, maybe everything would have turned out differently. Her sister picks up the conversation and tells their mother not to worry. Yami is just talking, but it is clear that her words affect her. Then they threw a huge party to celebrate their victory. The mood is light. Barir excitedly shows her new plush toys, a potato and a bunny. Meanwhile, the maids mercilessly tease the embarrassed Taku about the kiss with the princess. He asked him who was better and if he wanted to do it again. Overwhelmed with emotions, he hurriedly runs away, saying he needs to go to the bathroom. Leaving the room and walking down the corridor, he notices a lonely figure in the distance. This is Mumaru's mother. Her hands were dripping with fresh blood, and she coldly stated that she herself had killed two maids she had raised since childhood. It was her duty. She looks at Taku, in her eyes an icy emptiness. The innocent hands of Mamoru will one day be stained with blood, she says, adding, now teach me, human. She asks him, what is the point of chasing an ideal if such a gloomy reality remains afterward? Takaya's answer is simple and at the same time profound. I am a processor, he says. I always imagine what I want and do it. If only he can imagine it, there is nothing he cannot create. He turns to her and says with iron confidence that Mumaru is exactly doing this, creating the future she imagines. As if on command, Mamoru calls him, eager to learn more, even more. Everything is open to him. He again desires to learn more. Orakaya simply smiles. His faith in their shared future is absolute. No one has seen her, but the slippery creature admits she manipulated some key events behind the scenes. It allowed Takaya to borrow a hellish warehouse, gave him the coordinates for the meeting of the 6 epochs, and even directed a zombie dragon to create a distraction. Turns out that even with all that help, Takaya's plan had only a 10 chance of success, and yet he won. Slime returns to Chichai-chan. The elf, what do you think, he asks. Maybe we can entrust this world to him.